Hello and welcome to the Valley Sports. Wait a second, Kenny. Something's new. What we got going on?
It's a new day. It's a new time. Listen, we took the old, we threw it out the window, and we moving on. We getting bigger, better, baby. This is what we doing now. So now we took an old format, we switching it up. Now our weekly, as a matter of fact, it's not even a weekly show. It's going to be multiple episodes a week. We are now ATV around the valley, bringing you the best in sports coverage from all the local prep schools right here in our own backyard. Because who else going to do it, baby? It's going to be us. So the way we're going to kick this off is how we always kick off a football season, a fall season. We can bring in you a football preview. We're going to tell you what's going on in the East Valley. We're going to tell you what's going on in the West Valley. We're going to tell you what's going on in the Valley Mission. There's a new team that's on the block in the East Valley. We got the same old guys kind of dominating, but we're going to talk about all of it. So without any further ado, let's jump right into this bad boy. Starting right in the West Valley. You got to start in the West Valley because that's where the kings of the city section reside. 2023 was another dominant season for Birmingham. They went undefeated, went on to win a city championship. But what else is new with these guys? Looking at the standings, Cleveland finished second at 4-1 in the league, 9-3 overall. Elko finished third, 3-2 in the league, 4-7 overall, followed by Chatsworth, Taft, and Granada finished in last place. Now, I know people are going to look at that and say, what? That don't make any sense. How did Granada finish last place? I know I saw them. Listen, some things happened, some incidents, some things unfolded in the postseason. There were some ineligible things going on with a certain star player there who's not at the school anymore. Because of some of those infractions that happened, they were forced to vacate all their wins in the West Valley, which then drops them down into the basement. So we're going to have to pretend like whatever we saw last year just did not happen. So let's talk about the storylines going into this season in the West Valley in 2024. Birmingham's reign of dominance continues. They're entering the 2024 season with a 42-game winning streak in the city section. Granada, his outlook looks a little different now. The Stanleys aren't there. They graduated a lot of that tough defensive talent. We have to see what Bucky Brooks is, what rabbits he's going to pull out of his hat this year. Now, I do know, I have heard that he went and found some reinforcements, but is it going to be enough for them to continue to be a contender at the top of the league? A new era is upon us at Cleveland. Gunny is now focusing on coaching baseball. Mario Guzman, a beloved coach, a coordinator, now steps in and he becomes the head man at that program. Elko lost a lot of talent from that team last year. We'll see if they still have enough what it takes to be a West Valley contender. Chatsworth, Coach Marvin Street is now having to kind of rebuild that program now in the post-Isaiah Ramo era. And Taft, new era begins. I know last year was supposed to be a new era, but things didn't quite work out with Fred Emerson. He's moved on. He's in Anaheim at Savannah. And now Thomas Randolph, the defensive coordinator, steps in, and he now becomes the head man at Taft. And he's going to keep the ball rolling there. They still have some talent there, and they're looking to kind of build that program up and try to get out of the basement. So I'll start with you, Kaylie. With everything that we've sort of laid out as storylines going into the West Valley slate this year, what is the story that sort of piques your interest going into the season?
Birmingham is going to be the most exciting team to watch as far as wins goes, but that's not a new story. That's not something that we're not used to seeing. I am excited to see how Bucky Brooks rebuilds this Granada team, and it would be exceptional to see a team with some passing game this time around. They've always been really strong offensively, but a little bit of differentiation in their play strategy would be more exciting to watch. I was also shocked. We discussed this off the record a little earlier, but I was shocked about Gunny not being the head coach at Cleveland anymore. He's just a character that I've always associated with that team. So I'm really interested to see, what the vibe is over there and how that plays out. The Elko story, that's a sad one for me. I feel like Elko has always been our Cinderella story, and we always root for Elko because they always just seem to, despite everything, pull it out of their hat. So, that could be something to really keep an eye on this year because they could surprise us again despite all the odds. So even though it looks like we're going to have another reign of dominance of Birmingham this year in the West Valley, I think there's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot to keep our eyes on. It's going to be really hard to predict. And going into these first couple weeks, I think it's going to be very, very telling how things are going to shake out once league comes around. So pay very close attention these first couple weeks, how these schools like Cleveland and Taft and Granada are performing and what kind of talent that they brought onto the field this season, because it's going to really impact the predictions and what we should and can expect moving into league play.
Arshavir, what are you looking at? What's piqued your interest about the West Valley going into this 2024 season?
The question everybody wants to know every season, every fall is, can Birmingham keep it going? Right? Is there someone who's going to knock them off their perch? As we've seen, there's always a chance to replenish that pipeline. They have made a couple moves, and there's some more people coming in. So that'll be an interesting one. I don't really know if there's anybody in the West Valley who's ready to knock them off. We would have to wait probably until the playoffs to see if there's anybody positioned that believes they can step to the king, right? Granada lost a lot of talent. The bulk of it, which kind of concerned me, was the line talent, both O and D. That was really kind of the crux of what allowed them to do what they did. They blocked really well, and on D, they got after it really well. It looks like they might have pulled a couple rabbits out of their hat, but we'll have to see what happens here, week 0, week 1, how they're starting to come together. Cleveland is a little exciting because Guzman is highly respected in that program. It should be a seamless transition for the most part, and any tweaks and changes he has, shouldn't be something that is derided within that program. And we'll wish Gunny all the best, deciding to focus only on baseball now.
Just to wrap up, put a tidy bow on the West Valley. I do think that for me personally, I am looking at Cleveland a bit. Yeah, we know Birmingham's going to be Birmingham. They keep that cupboard replenished. Everybody saw that middle linebacker's arms. We all saw the size of his arms at that media day. Yeah, that boy will beat your ass and hide the Bible if God's watching. If you know, you know. But I'm looking at Cleveland. You know what? Keep an eye on Taft, though. Keep an eye on Taft because, yeah, Emerson is gone, but those kids will rally around Randolph there as he seamlessly kind of set in and took the reins. The energy is right, the vibe is right around the program, and they still have Legend Wilson and a few other kids who got a lot of time, and Dakota Garner, and there's a lot of impact players still on that team. And if they can take the experience from last year and sort of build on that in their senior years, Taft might surprise a couple folks this year. All right, moving on to the Valley Mission. Valley Mission was a league that you saw a lot of competitiveness at the top of that league last year. Now, there's going to some question marks occur on a couple teams in that league, but just to recap the 2023 standings, Kennedy, undefeated in the league, finally conquered the mountain that took them a couple of years to kind of get where they wanted to be. That quarterback, Diego Montes, as young as he was a rock. He was steady. He was incredible last year, led them to a perfect record in the Valley Mission. San Fernando had an incredible year out of nowhere. A lot of their seniors, a lot of their upperclassmen blossomed. They finished second in the league at 5-1, a close 5-1. They played Kennedy very tough. and it was very nip and tuck who were going to win that league. Panorama was right behind them at 4-2. Sylmar finished at 500 in the league, and Van Nuys surprised some people. But we didn't know what to expect out of that program. There was a lot of tumult there. They solidified the coaching staff. They got some talent in there, and they went 2-4. But record isn't necessarily indicative of how hard that team played all year. Reseda finished 1-5, and Canoga was in complete rebuild and under first-year head coach Lucius Mills, and they finished winless in the league and overall. So storylines going into Valley Mission for 2024. Kennedy's pursuit of dominance in the Valley Mission. Diego Montez is still only a junior and is just getting better and better and better every time that kid takes the field. He's an early favorite for a city section player of the year. But the question for Kennedy is, they're clearly one of those teams that want to take a Birmingham-type leap under Troy Cassidy, and their early schedule with Elko and San Pedro right out of the gate. We're going to find out a lot about them. Can San Fernando repeat the success of last season? They have new additions to the coaching staff. They got some real energy and fire behind them, and they think they're going to be right there, and they think they got a chance to take the league this year. Panorama, questions about where the program is headed. They've lost some impact guys over the last couple of years. Depth has always sort of been an issue for the Pythons, even though they play as hard as anybody in the entire city. We'll see what they can do without having Keanu Kelly in the fold at quarterback. The Spartans of Sylmar, they're a team that's sort of been in the mix. Is this a year where they can finally sort of break through that ceiling and get out of the middle and compete with the top teams in the league? Van Nuys, are they going to look to build on that success from last season? Austin Ward says that Reseda is ready to take the next step, and they think they can compete with the top teams in the league. And Canoga Park, now in year 2 under Lucius Mills, I know he's got some more bodies in that program. They're looking to build some consistency, and we'll see if they can actually start to put some wins together. So, Arshavir, we'll start with you this time. In the Valley Mission, give me one story, give me one team that you're looking at, and that's a team that kind of has your interest and you think can do something this year.
For me, there's two big storylines. I think the top of this league is Kennedy and San Fernando. It's really going to be a bit of a dogfight between the two of them. San Fernando really believes that they're in a position to challenge Kennedy. But for me, what is really, really intriguing is from the middle to the bottom. There's teams that believe they belong in the middle this year, and watch out. Reseda's got a quarterback this year who can throw the ball. So now he has a couple weapons. Austin Ward has a couple weapons at his disposal. That is going to be fun to watch. Van Nuys, yeah, they surprised some people last year, but I'll tell you, Ken Osorio is a Wolves alumni. He played back in the day. He has really put his heart and soul into this program, and don't be surprised if they're really pushing for that 3-4 spot. I really, really think it's that those two spots in the middle of that league, the 3 and 4, is going to be a big dogfight. Sylmar, Van Nuys, Reseda, Canoga, they're going to be fighting it out, and I think that's going to go all the way to the wire.
I think San Fernando is the most exciting storyline, in my opinion. Kennedy's always a fun team to watch, but they have been pretty dominant in the Valley Mission the past couple of years. I think that given San Fernando's performance last year, we have a lot to look forward to this year. And the Valley Mission in general, I think, is more competitive than especially the West Valley. So there's a lot of shuffling. There's a lot of standings that can move around. And if anything happens, I would hate to see it happen, but if anyone gets injured or if there are any issues with team chemistry, we could see those standings and that competitiveness shift quite a bit, especially in the Valley Mission.
I actually kind of agree with both of you guys because, one, I'm looking at that Van Nuys situation and I'm saying, I think that team might be able, I'll go out on a limb here, I think they might be able to finish as high as 2 because the energy that's been infused in that program, the way they've got those kids playing, they've got more kids in the program this year. They got 10 men on that coaching staff. which tells you that these kids are getting specialized training in their position groups. So I'm expecting to see a streamlined, a well-oiled machine. And based on what we saw them do just in year one, now having a whole off-season program to kind of get this thing really on track. Listen, with the way high school football fluctuates, they could be a team that surprises one or two of those teams. If Panorama's not careful, if San Fernando's not careful, they could find themselves on the losing end when they run into the Wolves. But you're right, Kennedy, I expect them to win the league. But there's something going on at San Fernando, especially now when you talk about Coach Boo being in the mix, running that defense. There's a lot of energy around the Tigers this year. And I think the Valley Mission is going to be very, very competitive and keep in line with where that league has been the last couple of years. Now, moving on to my favorite league, the Black and Blue League, the roughneck, the blue collar, the thugs, the guys who go out there and they clang and bang, the East Valley. This is where I like to spend a lot of my time because this is where the real men reside. Let me stop before people start coming after me. But you know what I mean. It's tongue-in-cheek, folks. Don't take it too serious. I'm just messing around. But 2023, our leader was the Kings of the East Valley, which at this point, if you follow high school football, that shouldn't be new to you. Our leader has been one of those teams that, as I've become ingratiated into football in this part of the country, as I've become a sports writer and started delving into history, one of the things that I was delighted to learn is just how long our leader's been whooping everybody's ass in the East Valley. I had no idea that this team, since 2008, I think they have a record of something insane, something like, they're going all the way back to 2008 when the East Valley formed, when it changed to the East Valley from the Sunset Six. Our leader is 83-9 going back to 2008 in the East Valley and have never finished worse than 3-3 in any season that they've competed in the East Valley. So this is the dog that runs the yard in the East Valley. And the question always going into the year is, are they going to be a little bit up? Are they going to be a little bit down? But they're always going to be in the mix. Last year, they went 6-0, had a hell of a run in the postseason. Poly came out of nowhere, finished at 5-1 in the league under first-year coach Darrell Daniels. He says he's got some things up his sleeve to keep it rolling for the Parrots this season. Chavez, Verdugo, NoHo, and Monroe and Grant all finished at 2-4 in the league. So what it tells you is once you got past Poly and our leader last year, it was just a boxcar derby where these teams were just beating each other up as they're finishing a 5-way tie for third place in the league. Storylines coming into this season for the East Valley. Can our leader continue to dominate? They still got a lot of dogs that were left over from that team last year because they did a lot of dominating with a lot of young players last year. So they're still going to be tough to deal with. Is Poly a real contender under Darrell Daniels? He found some gems. He got some kids into that program. We're going to see if they can kind of keep the ball rolling. Chavez, is this the year that they finally break through and compete with the big dogs? They've got talent. They've got the toughness. They've got the mindset. It's just a matter of can they finish games. Last year, they had 3 losses that were under one. They lost 3 games by 1 score. If they finish off some of those games, including a tough game against San Fernando, their season outlook might have been a little bit different last year, but I have a feeling they're going to be back. Verdugo, a lot of inconsistency, a lot of up and down, but we know what Verdugo is. We know who Sean Jackson is as a coach. We expect them to have a bit of a bounce back. The question is, can they bounce all the way to the top of the league? We'll find out. Where is NoHo headed now? Last year, they ran into some depth issues as it was. Now you lose your star player in Jalen Burke to St. Genevieve. He goes down the street to St. Jen's. Where is that program headed? Are they headed for the bottom of the league? Can they turn it around and still be competitive? Monroe, a little bit of a hangover last year because they lost a lot of talent from that team that won the East Valley in 2022. They're looking back with Pops to bounce back and be competitive and be in the mix in the East Valley again. And the growing pains of Grant last year with how young that team was and how that coaching staff wanted to rip their hair out every week because they were playing with children. But A lot of those young players got a lot of experience, including a very talented young quarterback. Could they be in store for a surprise season? We'll wait and see. And then the last team, Fulton Prep, making the move from 8-man to 11-man football, joining the East Valley fray. Now, what we know is there's a lot of kids who did a lot of postseason winning that are still in this program. Can they be competitive moving into 11-man in the East Valley? We shall see. So, Kaylie, we'll start with you. In the East Valley, give me a storyline that you think is worth watching coming up in 2024.
Okay, so I have two that are my favorite. I really would love to see Grant get their act together. I think that 2 years ago, they were kind of looking a little bit shaky. They did have some older talent and they were able to bust out some games. But for the most part, it was still even frustrating to, watch their coaching staff try to get that team to solidify and come together. We really saw the cracks in their cement when they had a very, very new team last year. And sometimes you were watching them, it seemed like they had just recruited the soccer team or the lacrosse team to come play on the football field for a game. Like, it was very, very, very obvious that they had lost some of the glue that was holding them together the season prior. And so this season it will be fun to see how the team chemistry reshapes and how these guys that are playing have built their skill set and learned to work more cohesively together, not just the members of the team, but also with the coaching staff, because you can see the frustration in them as well. Aside from that, I am really excited to see what NoHo does this upcoming season. I think Jalen Burt is going to be a hard hit for them, but I'm not convinced that I'm not convinced they're going to let that slow them down all too much. I think that they've got some tricks up their sleeve, and I think that they're going to come as ready to compete as they have years prior.
I'll start by saying I think Grant is going to have to find a quarterback. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think their quarterback is not playing this year. But what really, really kind of interests me as I dig through the rest of this, and I'm like, Paulie might be that challenger that we're all looking at. But I wouldn't be surprised if any of these other teams come up and make some noise. Like, Verdugo was 2 injuries away from beating Arleta in that game last season at Verdugo. If they don't lose the quarterback, that's a completely different ball game. They lost Tony Ramirez kind of early in the game, and they were still in position to send the game to overtime at the end. So that was one to keep a look at. If they stay healthy, like you said, Sean Jackson can do some things. But the one I'm really, really, really interested in is what's Fulton going to do. I kind of have faith in this program. They were running roughshod over 8-man for a couple years. So 11-man's a different horse. The field's a little wider, a little longer. But if this coaching staff is able to do what they want to do, I wouldn't be surprised if they find themselves in playoff position at the end of the year.
We've talked off camera about my intrigue for Fulton. That's why, breaking news, your boy is doing a story on Fulton's move from 8-man to 11-man. It was going to be a profile piece, but I think what I have decided that I'm going to do, and I spoke to the coaching staff about it, is it's more to be an end of the year story where I'm going to chronicle Fulton's process this year, moving back from 8-man to 11-man. And they're similar to a story that I wrote on Poly 2 years ago, where I followed them and their journey from the beginning of the season all the way to winning the championship. Hopefully that karma can rub off on Fulton and they can jump in and do the same thing. But we're going to be chronicling that entire talk. We're going to chronicle the entire season. We're going to talk to the coaches periodically during the year to check in. We're going to keep up with the wins, the losses. We're going to talk to the players, and there'll be a nice profile piece written about their journey from 8-man to 11-man, because it is intriguing. This was a team that could have stayed in 8-man football. They were one of the better teams. When you talk about 8-man football over the last 10 years, most conversation on this end of the valley starts with Fulton Prep. And then you get into the teams that may be able to knock them off when you get into the postseason. So to move back to 11-man has its inherent risks. When you're talking about the depth, do you have the numbers? Can you compete? Are the boys ready to compete? So that's going to be an intriguing story to follow this year. But that's my head. Come on, man. Y'all know where my heart is. Chavez is going to take it all this year. You understand what I'm trying to tell y'all? I'm telling you, this is the year. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to speak it into existence. They are the little engine that could. They are going to get it done. I think they have a chance to get it done, or at least this could be a year that ends with them lifting some sort of hardware by the end of the year. This is a team that is there. They are close. The last 2 years, they've been right there. It's just little mistakes, the little things, getting those things cleaned up. And Chavez is as tough a team that anybody has to deal with. So I'm going to go with Chavez with my heart. And also, our leader is going to kick a lot of people's ass too. So we've laid out the leagues for you. We talked about the East Valley, the West Valley. We talked about the Valley Mission. But now it's time for us to put our expertise on the line and make some predictions for this season. We're going to start with league championship predictions. East, West, and Valley Mission, rapid fire. Kaylie, who do you think is going to win the East? Who do you have winning the West Valley? And who do you have winning the Valley Mission?
Actually, no, I'll start with the Valley Mission. So my Valley Mission guess is San Fernando. I'm going to go a little risky underdog with it. West Valley, that's not really much of a question. I think that we all know that Birmingham is probably going to take the West Valley. I think a more interesting question is who's going to take second. And as far as the East Valley, I'm going to say Arleta. I think Arleta is going to take the East Valley.
I can't really bet against Arleta in the East Valley. I haven't seen much of them in the off season as I would have liked to. So that kind of does bring a question mark for me. But until someone shows that they're gonna knock them off, at this point, it's gonna be Arleta. Valley Mission, I think Kennedy holds off a very, very game San Fernando. I think it's going to be another nail biter. I think it's going to be really tight. But Diego Montez is special, so I don't think San Fernando gets over that hump. And West Valley, Chatsworth. No, I'm kidding. I love Coach Street. I just picked a random team out of the hat that it's going to be Birmingham. They continue the run in the West Valley. I don't think anyone touches them.
Yeah, solid picks. For me, in the West Valley, yeah, we had to go Birmingham. But I will say this. If there was ever a year with the sort of fluctuation in the talent and some of the big names that have kind of moved on and graduated from the program, if there was ever a year, and I know, we've been saying this for a few years with this team, but if there was ever a year that maybe it might take them a little bit to kind of get going, and that might leave them vulnerable for a game or two if some things don't necessarily kind of work out, I do think that Cleveland could be sneaky. Now, I'm not picking them over Birmingham, but I'm just saying there's something about that team that I feel like when you look at the rest of the West Valley, they feel to me like the obvious choice to at least finish second. And they might be able to hang with Birmingham a little bit. And the Valley Mission is going to be Kennedy. Diego Montez is the real deal. But I will tell people this. You're hearing it here first. That might be game of the year potential where we might have an actual quarterback duel. San Fernando might have something up their sleeves with a kid that's going to play quarterback for them. I have a hunch this year. That might be a game that everybody's talking about by the time we get to the end of the year. But I'm going to go with Kennedy. Cassidy's got that program humming. They're scheduled their non-league like a team that expects to go in and smash when they get to the Valley Mission. So I'm going to go with them. And then the East Valley, I love what Darrell Daniels is doing at Poly. I do. I just don't know if it's there yet to knock off this Arleta team. Arleta is stacked. They're loaded. They're bringing back a lot of experience from a team that played out of their minds last year. So I'm going to go Arleta unless Chavez beats them. But never mind. Now let's talk about city titles, right? One of the things that we take pride on this end is while everybody talks about what goes on in the city section with the Bannons and the San Pedros of the world, when oftentimes when you look up at the end of the year, it's one or two of our teams, even outside of Birmingham, that get on a postseason run because we beat each other up over here. And then we get in the postseason and we lifting hard way too, baby. It ain't just Birmingham. There are a few of our teams. We get into D2 and D3 and we start smacking people around out here. So which teams do you guys look at and say, if things fall right, these teams can walk away with titles outside of Birmingham? We know Birmingham's going to be an open, and until somebody proves us otherwise, we know they're going to win. But who else are you looking at in the Valley and saying, you know what, I would not be surprised if that team walks away with a city championship this year?
I mean, yes, obviously Birmingham in the open. I know I did say that I wanted to see San Fernando beat out Kennedy, but as far as like taking home a D1 title, Kennedy's already there. So I just feel like I'm backtracking, but Kennedy feels like a safer choice for this question in particular. For D2, I think it'd be fun to see Taft make something shake. I mean, they do have another new coach this year, but they had a lot of fun last year with their new program the way it was. And so if those kids can have that much fun with the new coach one year, I don't see why they could do it again. And I think it would be even more exciting to see them win a title. And then as far as the D3, I'd have to say Canoga. They've always been a favorite of mine, but I'm actually not. I can't say that I'm that versed in their talent this year, so I might eat my words on that one later. But Canoga is just a vibe favorite for me, so Canoga for D3.
I mean, open, we're not getting touched. It's unanimous at this one. Until somebody beats them, that's who it is. It's Birmingham. D1's interesting only in that, and this is where I think Kaylie shouldn't be backtracking, because 2 years ago now, Kennedy lost to Panorama, and Panorama won the Valley Mission, and then Kennedy got revenge in the D2 title game and took home the D2 City Championship versus Panorama. That was a really good game. So yeah, if you're thinking that could happen, it could happen again. But yeah, D1 I think is Kennedy. They learned. I think they learned from last year. Took their lumps in D1, and a year older, another year in the program. That's kind of the team I think out of the Valley that would have the best chance there. And don't be surprised if they have a rematch with San Fernando along the way. D2. Yeah, I'm feeling Taft. I could go on that run. And I'll tell you, with the head coach, it's not nothing. It's continuity. Randolph has been there for a few years, but he's not someone who's just kind of coming out of the blue. The kids know him. The kids love him. He loves these kids. He loves this program. So I wouldn't be surprised if he puts them together, sneak into D2 and make some noise. I think in D3, I'll say, if Verdugo's healthy, and I said this before, that Sean Jackson knows how to win. The man has a number of rings. He's done it at different schools, different ways. If Verdugo gets into D3, I think they have a chance if they're healthy. If they creep up into D2, I'm not really. I don't know. I can't say for certain there. But hear me out on this. I think if Fulton gets into D3 playoffs, I think they got a chance to make a real run. So for me in D3, it's probably you're looking Verdugo, Fulton, but don't sleep on Reseda or Canoga.
Yeah, I'll echo a lot of the same sentiments. We know what Birmingham's going to do, although there's a team over there in Narbonne. They've been talking a lot, and they got a quarterback that's headed to Oklahoma, and the last thing he wants to do before he leaves is put Birmingham in their place. I'm just telling y'all what I've been told. I'm not saying it's going to happen because last year I mentioned Narbonne and everybody lost their mind. I'm just telling y'all what I have been told. They got an Oklahoma commit at quarterback, and he thinks he's going to run all over Birmingham if he see them in the city championship. I'm just telling y'all what they told me. Anyway, Birmingham in the open. Kennedy and Arleta are two teams that you can clearly see they have been building these last 2 years because they want to take home that D1 honor because it's hard to get in the open, but a D1 chip to me is almost as good as winning the open because of how competitive you have to be to even get there. So those are two teams that I'm looking at. Cleveland, you throw them into the mix because they still got a lot of talent. On the D2 side, yeah, Sean Jackson and Verdugo, man, all they need is a little consistency, and that's going to be a tough team to deal with. I do like the fact that Taft program, and to give a shout out to Fred Emerson. Yeah, he was only there for 1 year. He's off at Savannah High School in Anaheim right now, trying to build a program there. But there was a lot of frameworks that he put in place that are going to make it easy for Taft to kind of get the train rolling and to try to get back to where they used to be. And I think the program has been left in good hands with Thomas Randolph. And I think that team could be somebody that shocks some people. And the same thing with Van Nuys. Consistency is key on a high school level. Can you get coaches and a staff together that's going to keep helping these kids get better and better and better? Can you keep numbers in your program? Can you get somebody in your program that gives a damn, that wants to see the program succeed and wants to teach these young men that, you know what, you don't have to go somewhere else. You can stay in your own backyard. You bust your ass. You work hard. You can do what Monroe did 2 years ago and come out of nowhere and win a league title. So I do like what I see from Van Nuys. And yeah, Reseda and Canoga, the thing about D3 is it's all a crapshoot. We know that. D3, you can throw a bunch of names in the hat and you never know who can win a championship. So you're right. If Fulton Prep can do some of the things and lean on some of their championship experience, it could be a team in D3 if they get in there that can make some noise. But also, shout out to Austin Ward because he's been saying for 2 years they coming. The Regions might be on their way too. All right, before we get out of here, the last thing we'll do, let's talk about a preseason pick for the Valley Player of the Year. Something that we want to do is when we get to the end of the football season, we want to give out our awards for us here at the Valley Sports Telegram because we watch these kids week in and week out, want to reward them for the work they put in. And you know what? We don't care about sharing with the other side of the city section. We care about our kids in our backyard. So with our 3 leagues, we are going to pick a preseason Valley Player of the Year. Or make a prediction for who we think might be the last man standing for that award when we get to the end of the season. So there are a lot of names and a lot of good players in our backyard, from Diego Montez at Kennedy, Antro Harris at Birmingham, Drayden Files, his teammate there, Marcelo Aguilar at Cleveland, Legend Wilson at Taft. There's a bunch of kids. So, Arshavir, I'll let you do the honors and go first. Give me your preseason pick for the Valley Player of the Year.
Bunch of names, a bunch of kids. But for me, it's the kid we seen coming as a freshman, and we saw him ball out. It's Diego Montez.
All right, Kaylie, who you got? Who are you picking as your Valley Player of the Year, the preseason pick for Valley Player of the Year?
I'm taking the kid that I've been having to look up from my phone and realize, oh my God, this kid's been making plays all freaking game. And this has been happening the last 2 years, not just in football. He was making waves on the track too this season as well.
Mm-hmm.
So my pick for potential hopeful player of the year is Antro Harris from Birmingham. The kid's got a great attitude, a great spirit, but he's got that dog in him as well. And he's came to play.
Can't go wrong with either of those picks because to me, even with Birmingham, it was hard to either him and Drayden Fowles is finally going to get the chance to be the bell cow for that Birmingham offense. And you know what they're going to do with him. They're going to put him in the backfield. They're going to line him up wide. They're going to have him returning kicks. They're going to have that kid everywhere. He has a chance to have a huge year. Antro Harris is going to be their deep threat. He's going to have a huge year as well. But I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path. Yes, Diego Montez is going to have a big year. That goes without saying. That kid is the real deal. But a kid that I'm looking at, somebody I've seen up close, and only last part of taking him from being a good player to a dominant player, a kid capable of going on and playing college ball, is just that developing that little bit of maturity and kind of accepting a leadership role. And that's Legend Wilson at Taft. That kid has all the makings to be an incredible player. He's last year they had him. He was a DB, but last year he settled in as an offensive player. They had him line up at split back where he would carry the ball out of the backfield, but he'd also line up in the slot. He's going to have the ball in his hand a lot because if Taft is going to be successful, he's going to have to touch that ball 15, 20 times a game. So he's a kid that when all is said and done, if Taft does some of the things that we think they might be able to do, Legend Wilson is going to have a huge part in that. So he's my preseason pick for Valley Player of the Year. With that being said, folks, that wraps it up for us. We hope you enjoyed it. We plan on bringing y'all a lot of coverage this year under this new Around the Valley umbrella. We're going to talk about football. We're going to talk about volleyball. We're going to throw some soccer in there. We're going to dabble a little bit of everything in here. And you just never know. We're not going to give you a set schedule because, first of all, we are professional people. We got to make this stuff work for us too. But I promise you, we're going to get a lot of content. We're going to talk about the kids because that's what we do. This is what we love to do. We cover these schools, and we're going to make sure we bring y'all everything that y'all need. So, for Arshavir Saryan, for Kaylie Harden, and myself, your boy, Kenny Hodges, peace till next time.